So today I've dug my Nintendo 64 out of the cupboard, and it's got a UK style plug on it, which means to plug it in here in New Zealand you've got to buy an adapter, which makes it this massively huge punishing setup. So today I'm going to show you how to change it to a New Zealand style plug, so you don't have to have the big ugly adapter and all that. So we'll get rid of that. And because they do run a 250 volt system in the UK, you can just change the plug and there'll be no transformers required, where if you had an American style 110 volt, you'd need a transformer to run it in New Zealand. So I'll cut the old one off and I'll show you how to fit this one. So first we'll grab our number 1 Phillips head screwdriver, which will basically fit everything in this plug top. You could also use a small flathead screwdriver, would do the same job. Either or is fine, just whatever floats your boat or whatever you've got laying around at home. So you always make sure you feed the end on to the lead like that first, because otherwise every time you get to the end you've fitted your nice plug and you've got to pull it all back off and do it all again. So you just mark the length that you want to strip it, and I'll just grab my pair of side cutters and just nip lightly around the black insulation without cutting too deep, because you will cut the cores inside the cable. And then we can just flick our black insulation off and our cores in the middle are still intact, undamaged. And I'll grab my pair of pliers, where you could just use side cutters, whatever you've got laying around. I do find it easier using the two, but you could get away with just side cutters or just pliers, but you might have to change your stripping method for the primary black insulation. And we'll just twist up the cores and double them over so that they get a nice firm connection and you don't end up with little bits of hairy copper coming out in all random directions. And so this plug obviously has your 3 terminals, your phase, neutral and earth, but in this case we only need the phase and the neutral, because the Nintendo is a plastic appliance. It doesn't need an earth, so we can just ignore that terminal, and we just back our terminals off, opens them up, and we can stick our cable in and clamp it up. And there we go. And we just make sure we get that nice and tight, because one sure way to start a fire is loose electrical connections, so you always make sure they're done up nice and tight. And then we'll stick our blue or our neutral. And so the terminals and the plugs are always labelled, whether that's your phase will either be labelled A, L or P for active line and phase, and then your neutral should always be labelled N. Sometimes they colour code them as well to make them easier, but generally speaking your brown is, well, in New Zealand anyway, your brown would always be your active or phase, and your blue would always be your neutral. It will be different in other countries, but in New Zealand we're always that way around. So loosen off our cord grip now, and we just want to make sure that we clamp that black primary insulation nice and tight, because that way when you're pulling it in and out of the socket in the wall, you're not going to be pulling on those brown and blue cores in the plug, because if you're doing that, eventually you will pull them out of the terminals, and either your appliance will stop or you'll get an explosion and some fireworks will come out, and yeah, it'll be a fun time. So always make sure that you clamp that secondary insulation, and that way your plug will be solid for years to come. You won't have to be revisiting it to redo your average job. So we just hold the cord clamp and just nip them both screws up a little bit, just to get them started, and that'll hold it all in place. And then we'll just want to make sure that we push that black insulation down so that we're just clamping the black. Like that, and we hold pressure on it to keep it clamped there, and then just nip up those two screws the rest of the way. And there we go. Just nip the last one up. There we go, it's solid as. You're not pulling on any of the secondary insulation or your phase neutral. Now you can slip that back end of it up, and it's got a wee tab there which I'll line it up. That means you can't, it's fail safe, you can't fit it the wrong way. There's that tab. And we'll grab our screws, pop them both in. And the reason we take them out is because, of course, they drop out, and then if you lose them, then all of a sudden you can't put your plug together that you've just gone and brought. Now you can pick these plugs up. I purchased from an electrical wholesaler, but you can buy them from, not this brand of course, but you can buy them from the likes of your hardware stores and Bunnings, Mitre 10, or whatever country you're in. You'll have an equivalent of those sort of places, but that'll do the job. So she's all tight, and we'll plug it in and flick it on and see if we've got any life in the old Nintendo. So if we flick the power button, the wee red light comes on, and we're good to go. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep the videos coming. Cheers.